One last final word. I keep getting distracted studying consciousness and having such poor and deficient mental health services. A required social worker who doesn't call for weeks and weeks and weeks and then says an emotional response. Haven't heard from you for a while. And I've left messages and I've pleaded and I've begged with the organization business health provider. And as a comparative example, I step in the elevator today and it's all dark all of a sudden. I look up, the lights are flashing, and I look a little closer, and they were spray painted. The person down the street who plays the music every week at about the same time on just about the same day. The people on the streets with their habits and their choices in this neighborhood in Seattle, who have as a fundamental belief, understanding, or decision that they have in place for consciousness. Spray paint the lights. Ignore the client patient. Don't return their phone calls and start emotions. Play some horrible 70s Beatles psychedelic music as loud as a rock concert. Hit your neighbor's wall. And the unity from this example consciously has to do with the brain hearing and seeing. Not hearing first and then seeing a time afterwards. This has turned into people's decision to cause a unity visually, to cause a unity auditorily, with a person being confused and misdirected with some bizarre and strange and awful sound. Techno music over there, Beatles revolution over there, graffiti elevator choice over there, large, huge hijab wearing woman who calls me ugly and a racist, and doesn't return my phone calls, doesn't answer my phone calls, and controls time. extracts time from my day thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get in trouble because my services are messed up, my social security benefits are going to get taken away because they think that I don't care, they think I don't want to be here now. For the sake of this now, for the sake of this now, for the sake of this now, for the sake of this now. Good gosh, I don't know how a person would go into a surgery like I did for chordoma with that as a requirement to be conscious and alive and awake after the surgery's over with. Stimulating has nothing to do with consciousness. Eating food and not pretending to be a brilliant genius whose consciousness floats around the building and visits everybody magically in the night and whispers in their ears with their paranoid thinking. Are bonkers. And flat out nuts. And pretty darn sad. There's a place called the Grand Canyon there in Arizona, up north. And what I'm talking about now seems like a person and people and folks are saying, in order to see the Grand Canyon, you've got to prepare mentally, auditorily, and physically. And simply going up to that edge and looking out in the distance has little to no benefit unless there is total conscious awareness and total conscious attention and total spectacular consciousness. Similar to a person drinking Coca-Cola all day, Coca-Cola all day, Coca-Cola all night, Coca-Cola, and then some ramen noodles for food. Staying up all night hallucinating and then seeing the sun rise and continuing their exploration of the world. Stimulus and stimuli come fast. They come at the right, exact, precise time. They know every footstep, they and their stimulus and the stimuli share the rewards socially for the benefit of all those in the world. Not always, not exactly described the way I am now. Have you ever tried to describe the person who wants a reset, who doesn't ask, who demands? They can play their sound. They can make the noise for their neighbor next door in the apartment next to theirs, for the sake of their mental health and the emotional benefit they get from the requirement they demand. Consciousness gets boring, consciousness gets lethargic, consciousness gets dreary, consciousness gets hard to imagine and describe and think about during sleep. And the process and the words and the language, they're being given a stimulus to eliminate any sort of problem. In mathematics, they call it variable, taking away all the variables. In other words, always locked on to now. Fixated on time. Excited by what's seen and heard. And the lack of thoughts and thinking and decision making. And just fine living in the world they make every day and every night and every second and every minute and every week. There's pauses, there's breaks, there's separation, and then there's a grand display. So for the last word, the final word, Om Mani Padme Hum.